Well, good evening, IFL Nation, and welcome back to the lab where we put together some midweek madness, where we analyze the week that was and predict the week to be in the Indoor Football League. In a bit of a departure from the norm, it is 7 p.m. over here on the East Coast, but regardless of that fact, it cannot change that it is Wager Wednesday in the Indoor Football League. Delighted that you're taking some time out of your early evening here to share this experience with me, going over all the great things going on in this amazing league. I did make the decision to bump today's session up a few hours to accommodate the ability for me to watch the Celtics play in their Game 3 versus the Dallas Mavericks later this evening in its entirety. So I want to make sure that there was no overlap there, because I know the NBA Finals is of interest to a lot of people as well. But in any event, glad that you're here taking some time. I definitely do appreciate it. For those of you who are new to the Indoor Football League or my channel specifically, I welcome you aboard. My name is Alex Schuberth. I am a huge fan of the Indoor Football League. I put in some analysis and work over at Sports Coast to Coast. That's a Pacific Northwest-based sports forum site that specializes specifically in the coverage of the Indoor Football League and its 16-member teams. You've got team rosters, breakdowns, game previews, and recaps, basically all the coverage that you would want as far as the Indoor Football League goes. Definitely worth checking it out. I put the link to the site in the description, where you will also find my written version of this series. So with that having been said, let's move to the next part here. So it is week 14 in the Indoor Football League. We've got 6 more weeks in the regular season, including this one, and 45 more games to determine who are the teams that are in and out of the 2024 postseason field. And for us, we've got that amount of time to make up an 8-game gap in our record. This series has been a rough one in 2024 after a stupendously successful 2023 maiden voyage. Regression to the mean, perhaps? Or is that something that's due for us here in the near future? Only time will tell. So we will start by going over week 13 slate of action, and my gosh, what an amazing week it was. Didn't necessarily get the end result that we wanted. We were 3-4 on the week, but with so many games coming down to last-minute field goals in regulation, we were bound to get clipped by at least one of those. It turned out that 2 of them ended up swinging bets against us, which from that lens could make the case that we arguably could have gone 5-2 last week. So week 13 is really thought of myself as a microcosm of the ruthless, merciless nature of IFL betting and sports betting in general. There's just so much on the line at the end. Wins become losses, losses become wins. From an entertainment and all the feel standpoint, this is what we want as sports fans. So hopefully more suspenseful endings to come, regardless of how we do on the slips. So we'll go through those games one by one in just a moment here. After that, we'll go over some season trends for teams and bet types specifically. After that, we will get to the week 14 slate. We have 8 games for the first of 3 consecutive weeks. So weeks 14 through 16, nobody has a bye. Everybody's going to play. It is absolutely full swing time in the IFL. It is a symmetrical slate with 6 Saturday games sandwiched in between a Friday and a Sunday tilt. And in a year after we just kept putting together winning week after winning week like it was nothing, 2024 has been a lot different. We haven't had a week with more wins than losses in 10 weeks. That is just mind-blowing stuff. So hopefully our picks this week will help us get back on that winning track where we can make up a ton of ground heading into the home stretch. We'll do our single game picks and then construct a 3-leg parlay, which hopefully will be our second parlay win of the season. We haven't had much luck in the past few weeks after hitting our first attempt in week 10. But you know what? We're 0-0 this week. We're 0-0. Nothing else in the past matters. We just go in the same way, the same eagerness that we've gone into this, and hope that something sticks for us. And we'll wrap up the evening with futures forecast and trends, provided that they are available. I checked a few minutes ago. DraftKings actually hasn't opened its futures market yet, so we'll have to see if that changes as the evening progresses. As the evening progresses here. So there is our week 13 slate of results. As you can see, not really much to cheer about, but we did have a few wins on that card. One of which, a rather improbable one, with the Tulsa Oilers and the Jacksonville Sharks. Jacksonville struggled in this one to start. They trailed by as many as 17, but somehow in some way played a fantastic second half, which has been a sore spot for them this season. And not only did they cover, they won the game on a touchdown rush with 1 second left for a 45-42 win over the Tulsa Oilers. It is their second win of the season, which coincidentally their first win also came at the hands of Tulsa, who are now on a league-leading 6-game losing streak. We got Vegas and Sioux Falls right. This was one of our 3 different underdog spread bets. And with this game going into overtime, it basically guaranteed us victory. The Sioux Falls Storm did 1 leg up on us. This was one of the games that had a end of regulation kick. It was good from Dean Saris, the 46-yarder, just over the crossbar and in, forces overtime. Sioux Falls getting the job done with the touchdown on their possession and intercepting Vegas on their possession. Big win for the Storm, 46-40. Make it 3 of 5 for the Sioux Falls Storm, who are trying to make a Cinderella run to an Eastern Conference playoff spot. Not too dissimilar from the run that they went on last year, where they took it all the way to Henderson. And our other win, Frisco and Quad City. This was another underdogs spread bet where we were kind of hoping that the game would be close, a 1-possession game, that sort of thing. But Quad City went toe-to-toe with the Fighters. Offensively, they got it going after struggling in the previous week against Green Bay. And this was another game that came down to a field goal attempt to tie the game. 50-yarder from Bryce Crawford of the Fighters came up just short, which ensured the 3-point victory for the Quad City Steamwheelers, their first victory over Frisco since that memorable 2022 Eastern Conference Championship. And our 4 losses, we came so very close with the Pirates at plus 150. That game was tied 33-all late in the fourth quarter. It really came down to clutch plays at the end that elite teams make. And right now, that's something that the Pirates are really struggling with. They were stopped at 4th and goal from their 1-yard line, from Green Bay's 1-yard line, which allowed the Blizzard the opportunity to march the length of the field, set up Andrew Mevis for a game-winning field goal attempt. He got it to go with 3 seconds left. Green Bay comes out with their first ever victory in Massachusetts, 36-33. Duke City, San Antonio, the tale of 2 halves. We started off really low scoring. San Antonio limited to 14 first half points against a deceptively good Duke City defense. It's probably been their lone bright spot of the season, if we're being completely honest. But again, this was a scenario where the Gladiators could have won the game. They were leading inside the final minute. Again, not too dissimilar from their prior meeting in Rio Rancho, but once again, Sam Castronova to the rescue, saves the Guns with a touchdown pass to Naquan Murray to regain the lead, 24 seconds left. And this game as well came down to a field goal attempt. Ernesto Locayo had a chance to steal the game back and shock the Gunslingers, but the attempt went wide. Duke City, 1-point loss, another tough one to stomach. And it is the Gunslingers getting to 500 with a 46-45 win. Arizona, San Diego. This was our other moneyline bet, and just a testament to how Moneyline Magic has just simply run dry this season. We took the Strike Force as the favorite. They were leading by 6 with possession of the ball in clock-killing mode, but Arizona got a defensive stand, forced a missed field goal, and then with 16 seconds left, Isaiah Houston, fresh off IR, catches the game-winning touchdown for Arizona. And after San Diego's attempt at a kick to win the game at the buzzer went wide, Arizona escaping San Diego with a 1-point victory, 47-46. And finally, that last loss at the bottom, the Tucson Sugar Skulls against the Bay Area Panthers. Tucson, their first game since Malik Mitchell was placed on the refuse to report list. Enter Zach Reeder, and that makeshift offense was simply no match for Bay Area's elite defense. Tucson scored 6 points in the first half and were 10 seconds away from being shut out in the entire second half. Still failing to get into the teens. So whenever you have one team just laying flat like that, it is practically impossible to go ahead and hit an over bet, regardless of where it is. So Panthers winning convincingly, really not having to break a sweat. That was a 51-12 victory for the Panthers, who go to a league best 9-1 record. So our results this season by bet type, by subsection of bet type, shouldn't come as a particular surprise when also looking at the season-long trends. Our underdog picks are single-handedly keeping us afloat. We've gotten 11 of 16 of those correct. And our over picks, while under 500, are still converting at a much better rate than under picks. Don't get me wrong, there's still going to be times where the under might be a worthwhile play. But so far, it's just been so tough to pick those for a variety of reasons. It's been tough to pick both. And you can see at the bottom there, our 3-leg parlay of the week did not get a single game right. If anything, you could call that Tulsa-Jacksonville push a slight success. But let's be real. It's parlay. We need to get all 3 right, and we did not do that. So, again, hoping that this week's attempt actually allows us to get to the second and third game with a little bit of hope. We've had a bunch of weeks where the first game, usually that Friday or the first Saturday game, just does us in, and we've got really nothing to root for as far as the parlay goes for the rest of the week. So we'll see what this week brings. Hopefully a little more suspense. So our year-to-date results continue to trend in the wrong direction here. We have not had a week with a winning financial result since week 9. So it's been a very rough drought for us here at Wager Wednesday. So on both methods, we're looking at about a 12% negative in the ROI. But we're going to try to get that back as close to even as we can here. That is the goal for both the record and the finance. If we're able to do that, make up basically 10 units in 6 weeks, that would be nothing short of miraculous. So here's hoping for the best and for some cash inflow to finally start happening here. And our couple graphs there showing our tumble as the weeks have gone on from the number of units standpoint. And again, hovering around that 9, 10, 11% ROI loss. So going to try to bring those back up to the place that we want. As far as the yearly results go, the over-under tally looks a lot different now than it did just a week ago, with unders going 6-0-1 this week. We had some hard regression to the mean, and now on the season, overs are only cashing 52% of the time. There existed a time when overs were 59% on the year. So is that starting to come back down to earth, or might it be an opportune time to cash in on any potential overreactions and start seeing games go over in bulk again? Who knows? We'll see what happens. Our usual suspects in terms of teams going on the under remains the same, with two of those teams within the Panthers, Sugar Skulls, and Pirates boasting top 3 defenses. And then you've got some teams to the over there: Frisco, Sioux Falls, Quad City, Jacksonville, all at above 60% efficiency with converting the over. So those are teams to look very intently in that level of detail as we get more of these games under our belt. And that number that we made mention of starting with a couple weeks ago, still firmly in play here. When the total is set at 88.5 or below, overs are cashing basically at a 2-to-1 ratio. And when needing 90 or more points to cash an over, those are typically falling short, with unders converting just around 60-ish% of the time in that condition. On the spread, the underdogs remain the decisive player advantage play. On the season, 59% effective. In the past 7 weeks, you're talking near 70%. Where if we had just gone with underdog spread every single time in that span, we'd be looking at near 34% return of interest. Staggering. The Pirates and the Rattlers, even though they covered last week and the week before, still the worst 2 teams against the spread. San Diego and Green Bay, despite dropping some spread decisions recently, remain the 2 most profitable teams in that department, with Bay Area rounding out the podium and a surprising team in 4th, the Iowa Barnstormers, with a positive 6-4 record against the spread. Home versus away doesn't really seem to impact the result all that much, with the 2 sides practically even going into week 14. On the money line, favorites are still winning pretty decisively. It's been, for the most part, a pretty chalky year. Favorites are winning 70% of the time, even with the underdogs outright winning most of the games last week. But that stat down below, even in DraftKings eligible games, if we bet exclusively on the favorites, we're winning at that same 70% of the time, but we would only have gotten 2.16% ROI, which you could argue is higher than we're at now, but it just shows the short-term gain, long-term loss nature of picking favorites on the money line. And there is a slight advantage for home teams. They went 5-2 in week 13 to contribute to a season-long total of 45-38. And there's our look by team. Apparently the entire Western Conference confuses me, with the Tucson Sugar Skulls leading the pack in that department. From this vantage point, you could say we're 8 games below 500. We know exactly where those 8 games are coming from. So hopefully we can bone up on our expertise of these Western Conference teams and see if we can't find some momentum in that way. So usual disclaimers go, same as before. The lines and odds that I'm going to use are going to come from DraftKings Sportsbook. I will be updating money lines later in the week with ESPN bet figures for games whose money line bets are not available on DraftKings. But again, I will not be using ESPN bet lines for evaluation purposes. We're doing this for entertainment and for fun. We're not doing this for the purpose of making money. If we happen to make profit on any given week, nice added bonus, but it is a slippery slope as far as the gaming goes. If you'd like to tail my bets, if you dare, you're welcome to do so, but please do it at your own risk. Risk only what you can afford to lose. If your loved one is having problems with compulsive or other problem gaming, there's a lot of resources online that you can refer to. haveagameplan.org is a great one that kind of debunks myths, offers additional resources to get those who are struggling back on the path to recovery. So with all that said, it is time to drill down and figure out if we can conquer week 14. Our first game is on Friday. It is 8:05. It is the Green Bay Blizzard home season finale. They are playing the Jacksonville Sharks. Green Bay's given 2 touchdowns on the dot with an over-under of 88.5. No money line bet is available. And both of these teams coming off exhilarating 3-point wins in much different fashions. Jacksonville coming back from 17 down to win, and Green Bay coming from behind as many as 12 to win their game against the Pirates last week. No doubt the Sharks are riding a little bit of momentum, but this is an insanely tough matchup. Going up against a Green Bay team that prior to last week was operating insanely efficiently on offense. They're still averaging about 48, 49 points per game in the past month. And if Jacksonville's defense was any indication, they played well in the last half against the Oilers, but even the Oilers had some momentum in the first half of that game on offense. And that was a team that had only averaged 33 points per game in their last 4. So I'm fully expecting Green Bay to kind of give Jacksonville a taste of their own medicine, just bashing them with the run game, a run game that has been so dominant against some of the elite teams in this league. And you know that Green Bay is going to want to put on a clinical performance in their final game at home, at least until the playoffs, where they are heavily likely to be playing at home in the first round of the playoffs, and right now are in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed in the East. It's just been a special year in Green Bay. So on that note, I am taking Green Bay on the spread. We've done this a couple times already with backing Green Bay at a double-digit number. And for the most part, they have rewarded us. They've played so well at Resch Center since their season opening loss to the Pirates. Their past 3 wins there, 28 against Quad City, 29 against Frisco, 20 against the Tulsa Oilers, where they pretty much called off the Dogs late in the game when the outcome was out of hand. I'm thinking something around mid-50s to mid-30s in this one. But I do like the under as a secondary play. I do believe there's value in that. I've been pretty much conducting the Jacksonville Sharks under hype train for a while now because so many of their games have somehow gone over. But I do think that this is a decent chance for this game to snap the streak, with Jacksonville overs being 6-0-1 in the last 7. But my primary play, the one that I wrote about over at SC to C, is Green Bay minus 14. Saturday's game, the San Antonio Gunslingers and Massachusetts Pirates. This should be a really fun one between 2 teams trying to solidify their playoff positions. Pirates are at home, giving a touchdown to the Guns Over-under is 89.5. Money line, San Antonio plus 225 and Mass minus 278. And the most interesting part about this game to me is that I see it as a game of complete opposites. In the past 7 games, San Antonio is 5-2, Massachusetts is 2-5. San Antonio's got the second-ranked offense in the IFL, the Pirates the third-ranked defense in the IFL. And on the other side, San Antonio's defense has been a sore spot all season long, and the Pirates' offense has lacked the ceiling that we've seen them capable of in years past. So there's just so much going on with this game that offers so much intrigue. And one thing that I noticed about the Pirates a little more going into this week is that they've taken a bit of a page out of the playbook of the 2022 Minnesota Vikings, seemingly exclusively playing in games that have been determined by 8 points or less. In fact, 9 of their 11 games have been decided by that margin, with only 2 of them decided by anything more. For that reason, I lean heavily towards this San Antonio +7. I think this is a point in the year where offensive upside matters when making these selections. And without a shadow of a doubt, San Antonio is much better in that department. They've struggled a little bit as of late. You could argue Sam Castronova may not be 100% healthy, but he's also the type of quarterback where even at 80%, he's still a top 4 or at worst top 5 option as far as quarterbacks go in this league. I don't see that Pirates trend of games ending in more than an 8-point margin of victory changing anytime soon. So the fact that we get 7 here on the visiting Guns is a great opportunity. This is one of my favorite bets of the week. And I would also sprinkle a little bit on the money line as well outside of this series. So ride the momentum. Go with the team that's been able to pull out these close games and take the touchdown worth of wiggle room. Guns up, profits up is what I like to say. 8:05, Quad City against Iowa, round 3 of this series that has featured 2 certified bangers already. The Steamwheelers are favored, but only by a point. The over-under is set at 100 on the dot. Quad City is minus 115 money line, and Iowa is minus 105. And I won't lie, prior to the lines coming out, I was thoroughly convinced of myself that there are a lot of arguments here suggesting that the over is the play. Quad City got their mojo back on offense once they figured out that their running game is their unquestionable strength. And on the Iowa side, they'll have Daniel Smith at quarterback, who's already destroyed this Quad City defense for 72 points in a game earlier this season as a member of the Tulsa Oilers. So everything seems to be suggesting the over here as far as past history goes. But I have a hard time seeing this game going on the crazy pace and tempo that the past couple have. Just from a general game flow standpoint, too. And we saw this with Quad City's last game against the Frisco Fighters. You get a couple stops or a couple missed field goal attempts early, and it puts you in such great shape if you have the under. Now, granted, if you had the under in last week's game, you needed all of that to go right with how high scoring that second half was, which always does present a little bit of danger with these picks. But I have to believe that one of these defenses is going to make a series of stops that help see this through. When I ran this game in my model, it was averaging about 92, 93 points per outcome. So that's comfortably a touchdown less than what this mark is currently set at. It's a game that really could go either way. So let's bank on these defenses showing more of a playoff-like mettle and going with the under at 100 exact. Another 8:05 kickoff. We'll see the Vegas Nighthawks on a 3-game losing streak with a prime bounce back opportunity against a maybe resurgent Duke City Gladiators side. Back at home for the first time since week 9, Duke City is getting 9 points. Over-under is 94.5. Vegas is minus 380, and Duke City is plus 300 on the money line. In Duke City, they played impressively last week. They nearly upset San Antonio while looking like a pesky underdog team that sometimes pops up around this time of year. Hassan Rogers, in particular, made a name for himself playing quarterback. But again, that comes with the caveat, it was against San Antonio's defense. Let's see how he does against another unit, especially one with the upside of the Vegas Nighthawks. The one thing that surprised me the most about this pick is that we do have money line bets available. And given where we need to start banking wins in a hurry, Vegas money line is easily my choice. I know it's not that bold of a prediction, and we are taking the money line against a team that's 1-9 on the season. But do we seriously see a scenario where Vegas loses 4 games in a row? And moneyline is also a decent bet for people who want to bet the Nighthawks, but don't want to back them at a 9-point spread, especially considering they're 1-5 in their last 6 against the spread. So that is going to be my play here. I like Vegas in a bounce back, convincing fashion. We're going to lay a bit of juice here for the sake of getting a win. 8:05 kick. We'll see the Sioux Falls Storm and the Tulsa Oilers. Very important game for two teams looking to make a late season playoff push. Storm beat Vegas last week and are being put as the betting favorites, 1.5. Over-under is 86.5. Sioux Falls is laying 20, and Tulsa paying even money to snap their 6-game losing streak. And I also think that this is going to be a sensational game. Both teams are playing with a little bit of momentum right now that they're establishing their identities on offense and getting healthier in the process. Lorenzo Brown-led Sioux Falls team is averaging about 47 points per game, while Tulsa, for the first time in a long time, cracked the 40-point threshold now that they've got a healthy Jared Ware Jr., Joshua Crockett, Alexis Rosario, and a more seasoned Andre Sale holding the reins at quarterback, looking to be pretty good and developing with each start that he's made. I do like this number for the over-under. It is the lowest mark of the week across all games. And it does feature a team that's been very strong on the over this season. Sioux Falls 7-3 to the over, as we talked about before. And I feel like both teams can easily get to 45 points here. If that happens, this bet should be a pretty convincing winner. So that is my play. I'm going Sioux Falls Tulsa over 86.5 and hoping for the best. 9:05 kickoff. This is the window of the season that has been completely ruining our hopes of profit. And of course, one of them involves Tucson, a team where we've selected only one of their 10 games correctly this season. So we'll see how this one goes with the Fighters coming to town. Tucson is 13.5-point underdogs at home. Over-under is set at 91. No money line bets available due to the point spread being so high. So which wrong selection will I make this time around? No, I'm just kidding. One thing that I do think works to our advantage when thinking about this game is that the Fighters did lose last week, and they have never lost consecutive games in their franchise history. So if you're looking to back the Fighters, that's a really good sign there. The other reason why I like Frisco so much in this game is that in games where TJ Edwards is active, they're averaging 53 points per game. And they have a couple other great things working for them leading up to this one. The fact that Tucson's defense is a bottom 4 unit in the league, and also the fact that the Fighters went out this week and brought back Justin Rankin. Oh, how the rich get richer. May God have mercy on the IFL. All kidding aside, everything seems to be gearing up for the Fighters to cover this spread convincingly. Even though they've had significant trouble covering as double-digit favorites this season, they've only had 3 of their 8 victories where they've won by more than this margin. But this is a spot where you have to take advantage of the team that they're playing against. The Sugar Skulls, in the past 2 games, 32 combined points. You can't average in the teens per game in the IFL and expect to have much of a chance of putting on a show. So, assuming that the Frisco offense does its job, we'll stand a chance. And it'll all depend on whether Frisco can keep Tucson at bay, which I believe they should be able to do. So lay it with the Fighters. The other 9:05 game, we get another promising installment of the Northern Arizona Wranglers and Arizona Rattlers rivalry. The Rattlers are laying 4 in the hook. The over-under is 97.5. Wranglers are plus 160 money line, and Arizona's minus 192. It'll be the first meeting of these 2 teams since the season opener, and both teams are looking to make a bid at the number 2 seed and a home playoff game come July. This one should be every bit of an instant classic as several of the other installments in this all-time series. And as good as Arizona has been playing recently, there has been one team that stood up to them very well, historically speaking, and that is the Northern Arizona Wranglers. And while I'm not going to go money line on them on this occasion, I absolutely love the fact that we're getting more than a field goal's worth of wiggle room on the point spread. If this thing were to come down to a field goal attempt, regardless of who's kicking it, we are immune if it comes down to that scenario. We saw that play out in last week's Green Bay, Massachusetts game, where we were not as fortunate. We picked the Pirates to win that game straight up. But had we gone with the spread, which was also at 4.5, that would have been a winner. So we're hoping that we learn from that misstep a little bit. The Wranglers, in my model, are actually more likely than not to outright win this game. So perhaps if I was in a little bit of a different spot on year-to-date season results, I might lay it more on the line and pick the Wranglers straight up. But in this case, I am going with Northern Arizona plus 4.5 as my play. Got some couple predictions there from Monica. Thanks for tuning in. Frisco, and curious to see if you like the over or the under in that Frisco-Tucson game. And the Naz win by a single point is also a really good prediction. We'll see if that one holds up. That would pay out pretty nicely if it was a actual market. And the under at 91, that's what I was thinking too. But Tucson's offense has been wildly erratic. They could score 20 points one week, and then Zach Reeder could have a 6-touchdown performance this week. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. We'll wrap up with Sunday's game, the Battle of California, version 3 of 4 in this season. The San Diego Strike Force and Bay Area Panthers do in battle once again. The Panthers at home laying a touchdown. Over under at 91.5. Money line is San Diego plus 235 and Bay Area minus 290. And if either of the prior two games between these teams is any indication, we are in for quite the treat for some Sunday night football. It's been a rough stretch for San Diego. They've seen a couple of close games fall from their grasp, including last week's against Arizona, a couple weeks prior against Frisco. They're looking for an opportunity to bounce back, and that's going to be really difficult against the Bay Area team that has looked, let's face it, absolutely perfect this season, save for one hiccup against the Vegas Nighthawks earlier in the year. Bay Area minus 7. Yeah, I'm not entirely trustworthy of that one either, especially when you're picking against a team like San Diego that is the best team in the IFL against the spread this year. But one pick that I am going to be making again for this one, and forgive me for this one not being as bold, Bay Area for the outright win. So, in thinking about this a little bit further, I have employed a little bit of a strategy that I didn't really do much last year, picking some favorites out every so often outright to win. It's 70% effective, like we talked about before, but we've only hit 2 of 5 favorites going straight up. So what better way to start to correct that trend than by picking the league's best team at home against a team that they've already beaten twice. This one should be close, but I still stand by this pick. I'm going to go Bay Area minus 290. Monica likes the over at 91.5. If I were to choose that one, I would actually take the under. The Panthers have just been a really good under team this season. In fact, they're the best team converting unders with 7 of their 10 games, staying below its set projected point total. But we'll see how that one goes. They've had a really low scoring game and a really high scoring game so far in this season series. So it really is a toss up. Alrighty, so those are our 8 single game selections. It is time to construct our 3-leg parlay. The first leg that I am going to do is I'm going to take Iowa, and I'm going to take the point as well. This has been, as we said before, a really entertaining series in 2024. The home team has won both games, and I feel like Iowa is well equipped to make that 3 of 3 for the home sides in this one. And the Barnstormers are going to have to be the more desperate team in this game. They're two games behind Quad City for 4th place in that Eastern Conference. And losing this one makes it so difficult for them to try to get back in. So I'm going to go Barnstormers, take the point worth of wiggle room. Worst case scenario, Quad City wins by 1, and our parlay remains alive. My next pick here is going to involve the Vegas Duke City game. And while I go with the favorite to win outright on the single bet, I am actually going to go Vegas to cover on the parlay. It's a little bit of a counterintuitive strategy, but when you only have one parlay win out of 11, 12 weeks, whatever it's been, you got to try some different things here and see if they stick. I do have Vegas winning by double digits in most of my simulations here. And if we look at Duke City's recent form, they've alternated games between high scores and low scores. And scenes where last week was high scoring, it's very possible that they could come crashing back down to earth with a high 20s or low 30s performance. And if that's the case, all Vegas has to do is their pretty much average play on offense, be it whether Jerome Johnson or Jorge Reyna starts at quarterback, and that should be able to see us through on that side. So give me Vegas -9 as the second leg. And the third leg is going to be the Northern Arizona Wranglers for the outright win. We are going big or going home on this one. The Wranglers have been one of few teams in the league to log multiple outright wins in the desert. Look no further than the playoffs of the past 2 years. And Northern Arizona is playing pretty darn good football right now. They were on bye last week, but prior to that, they were on a 3 or 4 game winning streak. So Les Moss has his guys playing in great form right now. Again, this should be crazily entertaining. If we happen to get a break go in favor of the Wranglers, this one looks really promising. So those are our 3 legs. If we decide to put $10 on it, our possible payout is $94.76, which would represent our second highest possible payout potential that we've had on a parlay this season. So we will see how it goes. We're going a little bit more bold with this parlay than we have in prior attempts. So give me Iowa +1, Vegas -9, Northern Arizona for the outright win. And we'll see if we can get our second parlay win of the year. Would be huge if we did. And it does not appear that the futures market has been opened yet for the IFL championship game. So we will skip over that for the time being. I will update those when they do go live in my written post. So that is how we will wrap up our evening tonight. We've got Monica saying Josh Jones is Offensive Rookie of the Year. I could absolutely see it. Malik Mitchell was my front runner for that award until he was placed on refuse to report, even after missing a few games with that injury earlier in the season. So it should be pretty fun to think about when we look at our yearly awards at the end of the regular season. Should be good. So that is going to wrap it up for tonight's Wager Wednesday. If you do try your luck, I wish you the very best. And as always, I will see you at the cashier. Have a great night, everyone.